What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today, I'm checking out some of the bigger releases that are coming out this Friday, August 29th. There's about 300 albums coming out this week. I got 12 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 300 albums that are coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 12 of them today. So for something you're looking forward to that I don't have on here, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what albums you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, this should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon. All the pre-orders are on there. There's new releases. There's deals on records. All sorts of cool stuff to check out. I think easily one of the biggest releases this week is going to be this new album from Sabrina Carpenter, Man's Best Friend. It's her 7th studio album. There's multiple different variants going to be available of this one, including a light blue version, which could be the indie exclusive. There's also a translucent brown version that's going to be the Amazon exclusive. It's going to run about $33. Sabrina Carpenter is easily one of the biggest pop stars today. This new album is coming off the heels of her hugely successful album Short and Sweet that came out last year, which hit #1 in a bunch of different countries. She was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards off of it. I think I listened to a couple of songs off of Short and Sweet when it got released. It's not generally my style of music. I'll stream it and check it out when it gets released this week. Sometimes it can be really difficult for an artist to follow up an album like that, though, because now there's even more pressure on them to have as big, if not even a bigger album than they did before. So we'll see how successful she is with this new album. Like I said, I'll stream it and check it out this week. Then we also got a reissue of Tango in the Night by Fleetwood Mac coming out this week, released in 1987. It was her 14th studio album. So this is part of the new Rhino Reserve series. It's going to run about $32. So this new series they're putting out, these are cut from the original master tapes. They're pressed at Fidelity Record Pressing's new pressing plant in Oxnard, California. Of course, Tango in the Night would be the last album from Fleetwood Mac from that classic Rumors lineup, because Lindsey Buckingham would unfortunately leave the band after the recording of the album. But it would go on to be one of the band's biggest selling albums. It would sell over 15 million copies worldwide. It's not the band's best album. I think it's a really good album, though. I don't think it's close to being anywhere. I think their self-titled album and Rumors are easily their best 2 albums, but I don't think Tango the Night is too far behind it. It's one I don't have on vinyl. I've been looking for this new Rhino Reserve series, so it's probably one I will grab this week. There's also the 10-year anniversary edition of How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful by Florence The Machine coming out this week. Come out back in 2015. It was our 3rd studio album. So the 2 LP release is going to be on blue marble vinyl. It's going to run you about $46. The first couple of albums were a little more straightforward indie rock, and then with their 3rd album, they started incorporating a little more like blues and folk into their music. It became a little more of like an art rock kind of album, and it worked because to date it's the band's only #1 album on the Billboard 200. It ended up receiving widespread critical acclaim. They'd be nominated for 5 Grammy Awards off this album. I still think their first 2 albums are probably a little bit better than this one, but this one isn't too far behind. This one's definitely more experimental than their first 2. I would put this one, like I said, just kind of a notch behind their first 2 albums. So you got that getting reissued this week. Then you've also got Pink Elephant by Stained Atlantic coming out. This was released back in 2020. It was their 2nd studio album. It's going to be on black glitter vinyl. Of course, whenever I see glitter in the title of a color for vinyl, I always think, sound issues, because I have had glitter albums before that have had sound issues because of the glitter in them. But it's going to run you about $29. I know that's just my experience with those albums. I know other people that have had glitter albums that have not had those issues before, but just whenever I see that in a title, I just always kind of think that, I kind of want to wait and see what reviews say about the sound quality before I pick up a copy. But if you aren't familiar with Stained Atlantic, they're a female-fronted Australian pop-punk band. They formed back in 2012. They didn't release their debut album, though, until 2018. Their latest album was Here, came out last year, and they're one of those bands that, with every single album they release, they just keep getting better. If you're unfamiliar with their music, they're a band that I highly recommend checking out. I'd never heard of them before until, I think it was 2022. I saw them open for, I think it was Mod Sun. It was in a really small venue in Detroit. I'd never heard of them before, and I was really impressed with them. They put on one of the better shows that I've seen over the last couple of years, and I'm kind of hooked on their music ever since. There's also a half-speed mastered version of Crime of the Century coming out this week from Supertramp. Released back in 1974 as their third studio album. It's running about $40. This was the band's big era-defining breakthrough album, and it's an album that landed the band on Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 50 greatest progressive rock albums of all time. I've long considered this one of the more important progressive rock albums of the middle part of the 70s. It would reach number 38 on the Billboard 200, and this is the album that I think made Supertramp a household name. For $40, I don't know, if I can grab it on sale somewhere this week, maybe I'll grab a copy of it. And you've also got No Remorse by Motorhead getting reissued. Came out back in 1984. It's going to run you about $40. So this is a compilation of tracks off of the first 5 Bronze Records albums. So these are all albums released between, I think it was 79 and 83. There's also some live material on here. There's also 4 new tracks that they released on this album. This is the first of a series of releases that coming out this week from Motorhead, all celebrating the 50th anniversary of the band. This one's going to be on 2 LPs. It's going to be on red and black splatter vinyl. This was the first album I ever heard from Motorhead. I kind of always look at this as like the definitive collection from the band. It spans multiple lineups from the band also. It's a great compilation from one of the more significant heavy metal bands of all time. Also coming out this week from Motorhead is No Sleep Till Hammersmith. Came out back in 1981. It's going to run you about $30. This is a live album recorded in the spring of 1980 and 1981. So it was right before and right after the band released Ace of Spades. I think this album really captures that raw energy that the band had, and it documents Motorhead at their commercial peak. I'm not sure about No Remorse, but I know this one's half-speed mastered. This is going to be on yellow and black splatter vinyl. I probably will end up grabbing a copy of this one. Probably not this week, though, because I bought a lot of records lately. I will grab a copy of it at some point over the next couple of weeks, though. And then the last Motorhead release I got on my list this week is No Sleep at All. Came out back in 1988. It's also going to run about $30. This is also a live album. It was recorded on July 2nd, 1988 in Finland. It's going to be on clear and black splatter vinyl. I might be wrong, but I think I'm pretty sure this one was recorded at the Giants of Rock Festival. And the interesting thing about this album is there's a big dispute between Motorhead and their label. The label wanted Ace of Spades to be the release or the single off of this album, whereas Motorhead wanted Traitor to be the single off of it. There's a big dispute between the two of them. There's a big lawsuit. Motorhead would end up leaving the label. And guess what? Ace of Spades ended up being the single off the album. There's a couple of brilliant jazz albums getting released this week. The first one's the John Coltrane Quartet Plays. Came out back in 1965. It's going to run you about $39. This is part of the Verve Acoustic Sound series. These are always mastered from the original analog tapes. They're pressed at QRP. It's all overseen by Chad Casson from Acoustic Sounds. So this album was actually recorded just 3 months after he would record Love Supreme, which I've long considered one of the greatest jazz albums ever recorded. And it was actually the album that got me into jazz music. And it was recorded with almost the exact same cast of players. McCoy Tyner was on there, Jimmy Garrison was on there, Elvin Jones. The only addition on the album was Art Davis, who he brought in as a second bass player. And that's what gives this album a different sound, is on 3 of the 7 tracks, they have 2 bass players. And that was the big thing about John Coltrane's music around that time, was it was evolving very quickly, and he would do so many different sounds on each one of his albums. And that's why I would say you can really never go wrong with any of his recordings from that period. So that's probably one I'm going to grab this week. Then you've also got Wayne Shorter, introducing Wayne Shorter. Came out back in 1960. This is part of the Craft Recordings original Jazz Classic series. It's going to run you about $38. These are always mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. They're pressed out to RTI. This was Wayne's debut album as a band leader, and this was the album to really establish him as one of the bright rising stars in jazz music. He's got a great lineup on this album with him. He's got Lee Morgan, Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb on drums. And this is also right around the time that he would join Art Blakey and Jazz Messengers and record some of the greatest jazz music of that period. There's also the big 50th anniversary edition of Red-Headed Stranger by Willie Nelson coming out this week. Released back in 1975. It was his 18th studio album. It's going about $30. It's going to be on gold vinyl, which I don't know why they call it gold vinyl. It looks like it's on orange. But Willie amazingly recorded this groundbreaking album in just a couple of days. It was his first album with Columbia Records after they signed him from Atlantic. And when he signed with Columbia, they gave him full creative control, which is really important because when he first turned in the album to the label, they thought it was a demo, I think mainly due to the more minimalistic nature of the album. But because Willie had creative control of the album, the label couldn't force him to do any additions to the album. The only thing they could do was release it the way it was. And it would end up being what I think is one of the best albums of his career. So, big 50th anniversary release coming out this week. And then the last album I got on my list is a Charlie Brown Christmas, released back in 1965. 60th anniversary release is going to have a holographic foil sleeve. It's going to run you about $28. Yes, we're getting to that point of the year where we're going to start seeing some Christmas albums getting released. I think it's easily one of the most popular holiday albums of all time. But this is another one of those albums where I feel that like this has been reissued like 5 times over the last couple of years. I know there's been like a picture disc version of it. There's been a couple of different color variants of this album. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great album. I have a copy of it, but I'm just not sure we need another copy of this album, even though it is a big 60th anniversary. Well, this is not only the 60th anniversary of A Charlie Brown Christmas, but it's actually also the 75th anniversary of Peanuts. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. You know, I'll probably end up grabbing that Tango on the night. I probably will grab that Coltrane also. I don't know. Maybe that Stained Atlantic. I've got some question marks next to some other ones. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoy the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.